The Cursed Carnival, a tale of horror and doom. In the forgotten outskirts of a small town in Louisiana, a mysterious carnival appeared one moonless night. Its arrival was unannounced, its lights flickering like dying stars in the distance. The name etched on its towering gate read, Carnaval di Sangue, the Carnival of Blood. Despite the warnings, a group of thrill-seeking teenagers, Amy, Jack, Luis, and Rachel, decided to visit. They were drawn to the carnival's sinister allure, their curiosity outweighing their fear. As they approached, the air grew thick, smelling of burnt sugar and decay. The gate creaked open as though it had been expecting them. The carnival was eerily quiet. Brightly colored tents loomed in the darkness, their fabric tattered and stained. Rides screeched as they moved, though no one seemed to be operating them. Mannequin-like figures stood motionless at the booths, their painted faces twisted into grotesque grins. "This is weird," Rachel muttered, clutching Luis's arm. "Just a bunch of old props," Jack scoffed. "Let's explore before the real fun begins." As they ventured deeper, they stumbled upon a clown standing motionless in the center of the midway. Its painted smile stretched unnaturally wide, and its glassy eyes gleamed like they were alive. Amy leaned in to inspect it, but the clown's head snapped toward her, and its mouth opened wide, releasing a guttural growl. "Run!" Louis shouted, pulling the others away. The group bolted, weaving through the labyrinth of tents. The lights around them flickered violently, casting shadows that twisted and moved like living things. The air grew colder, and distant laughter echoed, though the source remained unseen. They found themselves in front of the Hall of Mirrors, its entrance a gaping maw with jagged teeth painted around the frame. A sign above read, "Face your truth." "We need to hide," Jack said, pulling Amy inside. The others hesitated but followed, their fear outweighing their better judgment. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of blood. The mirrors were cracked and smeared with dark, sticky streaks. As they moved, their reflections didn't match their movements. "This isn't real," Amy whispered, trying to convince herself. But the mirrors began to shatter one by one, releasing shadowy figures that crawled out, their bodies contorted and wrong. They had no eyes, only hollow sockets that oozed black liquid. One lunged at Rachel, its elongated fingers slicing her arm. Blood sprayed across the glass as she screamed. "Get out of here!" Jack yelled, smashing his way through a broken mirror. The others followed, stumbling into a dimly lit tent. The tent was filled with carnival games, but the prizes were grotesque. Severed limbs hung on hooks, jars filled with floating eyeballs lined the shelves, and in the center stood a massive wheel, its sections painted with gruesome fates: dismemberment, eternal pain, madness. A voice boomed from the shadows. "Step right up and spin the wheel of fate!" The group turned to see a ringmaster emerge, his top hat tilted over his hollow eyes. His skeletal grin stretched impossibly wide as he gestured toward the wheel. "Refuse to play and you'll forfeit your lives." Amy, trembling, stepped forward. The wheel spun, its rusty gears groaning as it slowed. It stopped on madness. The ringmaster cackled, a fitting choice. Amy screamed as her reflection appeared in a nearby jar, her face twisting and melting into a monstrous visage. She collapsed, clutching her head as her screams turned to hysterical laughter. Luis, enraged, lunged at the ringmaster, but his body froze mid-stride. The shadows wrapped around him, dragging him into the darkness. His agonized cries echoed before abruptly stopping. Jack and Rachel, paralyzed with fear, turned to run, but found themselves in the Ferris wheel of fate, strapped into seats against their will. The wheel began to turn, its metal creaking like bones snapping. With each rotation, the seats dipped into a pool of bubbling red liquid that smelled of iron and death. Rachel's screams pierced the air as her seat sank into the pool, her body emerging seconds later, covered in burns and missing flesh. Jack struggled against his restraints, but it was no use. The wheel kept turning, each rotation claiming more of them. As Jack's seat reached the top, he saw the carnival in its entirety. It wasn't a carnival at all, but a sprawling pit of writhing bodies and shadowy figures. The tents were made of stitched skin, and the rides were powered by the souls of those who had fallen victim. The wheel jerked to a stop, and Jack's seat tipped forward, sending him plunging into the pool below. His screams joined the cacophony of voices, and the carnival roared with laughter. The next morning, the carnival was gone. In its place was a field of scorched earth, littered with shattered mirrors and broken dolls. The townspeople whispered of the missing teenagers, but no one dared to investigate. Far away, in another forgotten town, the Carnaval de Sang appeared once again, its lights flickering in the darkness, waiting for its next victims. Its lights flickering in the darkness, waiting for its next victims. And somewhere, deep in its heart, the laughter of Amy, Jack, Luis, and Rachel echoed, trapped forever in the carnival's grasp.